Hey guys, I want to start today's video off with a simple question. How do you feel right now about your dating life? If your answer is, well, Damien, thanks for asking, but I feel pretty damn good about my dating life, then I suggest you sit back and enjoy this video and maybe discover something that you've been doing all this time that you didn't realize all along. However, if your answer is anything than, I feel great about it, what I want to ask you next is why? Why are things not going well in your dating life? And I want you to ponder your answer for a second. Just think about what comes up. Because for some of you, the answer that comes up is going to be an externalized reason. Maybe growing up, your father used to make fun of you anytime you talked about women. Maybe you've read that women are really very superficial and only interested in the most of superficial of things, and even someone like you who offers a lot of substance as a human isn't good enough for women in the modern day dating world. Perhaps you've internalized the reasons. Perhaps the reason that you're not dating much is because you're just too introverted for women. Maybe the reason that you're not dating enough is you're too ugly or you're too short. The truth is that these are stories that you tell yourself. And it's possible that you've been telling yourself these stories about your dating life for years, maybe even decades. And the stories that we tell ourselves are critical because they play a massive role in the way that we see ourselves as human beings and the way that women see us as men. And most likely, the story that you're telling yourself is seriously degrading the success you have with women right now. To give an example, let's consider two twins, twin A and twin B. Their lives have been absolutely identical up until today. Last week, both twins were fired from their jobs. At 28 years old, they had no money to keep paying their individual rents and they had to move back home with their parents. This, we'll all agree, is not an ideal situation for anyone. But twin A says to himself, Jesus, I'm 28 years old, I've just lost my job, I have no job, I don't know what I'm going to do next, I have to live with my parents at 28 years old, and we all know that no women want to date a guy who's jobless and lives with mom and dad at the age of 28. Twin B says to himself, wow, since I was last at high school, I haven't been this free to make decisions about where I want my life to go. Now, for the first time, I really get to reinvent myself as a guy and think about what do I really want for my life because I'm not tied down to anything and I've got this chance to start from scratch again. If I decide to host a party at my new house this Friday night and I invite both twin A and twin B to my house party, who do you think is going to have the most chances of attracting women? Who do you think is most likely to repel women? See, both twins are in the same unenviable situation. But they've both decided to tell themselves a different story about what that situation means. And doing that, seeing ourselves in a different light, in spite of the same negative thing happens, will play a massive role in how women are going to feel about us when they meet us. And of course, I'm not going to argue with you. Women would rather a guy with a job. Women would rather date a guy who has his own place and doesn't live with mom and dad. These things are still true. But the reality is that women, in fact, human beings in general, are massively swayed by how they see the men they talk to, how they see that those men view themselves in their life situations. In fact, women are consistently testing the men that they meet. Have you ever been in interactions with women and they ask you tricky questions? It could be anything from, why did you come and talk to me? To where are your friends at? To do you approach girls all the time in the bars? To how many girls have you slept with, right? All these kind of tricky questions they're asking you about yourself and you're not sure how best to answer. What women are doing is they're checking to see how do you feel about the things that you're doing in your life? How do you feel about having approached her right now? Because I can tell you right now, if you feel ashamed of having to walk up and approach her because you thought she was cute, and that comes out when she says, why do you approach me? She's going to lose interest. But if she asks you that question and you're really confident and comfortable with what you're doing, she's going to grow, her interest is going to increase. And I see these dichotomies with guys all the time. I can have two black students and one of them will walk around saying, well, Damien, the statistics, they clearly show that on dating apps, white women swipe right on black men far less than they do on white men. So as a black guy, I'm at a serious disadvantage and I'm going to really struggle to date much because women just aren't, clearly, statistically, aren't interested in black guys. I can have a second guy who says, Damien, you know what's really cool is there's a whole subsection of white women, there's a whole culture of white women who are secretly interested, really, really curious about sleeping with a black guy. And I, as a humanitarian, see it as my duty to help be that guy for those women. Okay, if I have two guys who are short, who are below average height, and myself, I'm below average, I'm 5'8". But if I have two clients, I can have one who says, Damien, the stats clearly show that women prefer men who are taller. And if I was 6 foot something, I'd do better with women. The second guy says, you know, Damien, what's interesting about being short is I can slide in under the radar, especially in social situations, because women don't see me instantly as a threat so easily. So I can get in and get talking and start flirting before they realize that's what I'm there for. And it allows me to build some rapport and connection before they have a chance to sort of instantly reject me, as some of my taller friends get straight away. And sure enough, while neither guy in the same situation is lying, they're both correct in their assumptions, and both men know that the situation may not be ideal for dating. I'm 5'8". I know I'd do better if I was 6'3". But the reality is that if we focus on the stuff, the benefits, the way that this benefits us, then it does, and we have a far higher chance of having success in our dating lives. But I know reframing your lives is really freaking hard. It is hard because it's not good enough to just say the thing. It's not good enough to go up to a woman and say, you know, hey, I'm living at home and I feel great about it because it means I've got life, I can reinvent myself and have a great chance at creating a new me. If you just say it like that, women aren't going to believe you because they can feel that you don't really have the passion for your life situation that you're claiming to. They'll feel that, and that won't be good enough. You actually have to change the way you feel about your situation, not just say the words. And that's really hard to do. When I was 19 years old, this is when I first discovered this idea of reframing, how powerful it could be. Because when I was 19, I was suffering with debilitating panic attacks. And because of these panic attacks, my high school sweetheart that I'd been with for 4 years had left me, and that she'd been cheating on me for the last 6 months of our relationship. And a whole bunch of other things. I had to drop out of university because I just couldn't cope. I couldn't struggle. I was living in my room, hiding from the world, mostly playing video games the whole time. And I started to read Anthony Robbins, really get into Anthony Robbins stuff. And when he talked about reframing, it really clicked something in my head. And every day, what I would do is I would write in my journal, and I would start to write about my life. And I would think about how can I make the negative things in my life, the bad things that have happened, how can I turn each and every single one of these things into something that's positive, into something that's going to be a benefit for me. And in the beginning, it was hard. It felt like I was just making stuff up, like I was writing myself a fiction story. But every day I'd go to my journal and I'd start to write. And every day I'd write something slightly different, not on purpose, but sometimes it'd be mostly the same, 20% different, 80% the same, and it would evolve. The way that I interpreted or could write about interpreting what had happened evolved. And over time, over a couple of weeks, a story, a way of interpreting my life that I really could understand and believe in started to emerge. So I started to see myself as okay, right? Now that I'm single again, I actually have an opportunity because I was in a relationship, a serious relationship really young. Now I get to be free. Now I get to date. Now I get to have fun as a guy. What if I got a bar job and I would actually get paid in that bar job to flirt with women? Right? Because I could flirt while I'm doing my job. How amazing would that be? And I couldn't do that if I was in a relationship. And I started to think about, okay, and my ex, she didn't treat me very well. So now I have the opportunity to find someone who will treat me better, who will be better than that girl. How awesome is that things have ended? I started to get focused on my anxiety. Okay, I'm going to work through this. I'm going to get through this. And when I find a solution, I'm going to use everything I've learned to help other men who suffer with anxiety. And I started to evolve all these aspects of my life into something that was hugely positive, and I felt really great. I felt incredible. And since that day, really, I've gotten good at reframing the bad things that happened to me in my life. It's a life skill, and it doesn't just apply to dating. But I swear, when I'm working with clients, it's the number one thing I have to do is I have to take the negative beliefs that my guys have, that you guys have watching, and I have to help them to reshape that into thinking, how is this a benefit? How can I use this? How can I be proud, happy about these things that have happened, right? How am I going to use them? And when you start to do that, and then you talk to women about your life, you are going to feel different to them, and they are going to be a lot more attracted to you. So here's what I propose, guys. I want to make a little bit of a game about this, where we're going to help each other. In the comments, I want you to talk about the traits about yourself that you are not happy about. I want you to talk about what has happened in your life that's holding you back. And myself and the other men watching, we're going to jump in and give you ideas for how to reframe that. How could you use that to a benefit? How could this be a good thing in your life? To my really loyal viewers who are still watching now, I want to apologize for having waited so long to make another video. The truth of the matter is I was coaching overseas, running boot camps, And then I was going through the process of getting a new house, which you can see, a new environment, new house. I'm probably going to film in different locations around the property for a little while and just see what's the best. But I apologize, and I'm back now for my regular views. So thank you so much for being patient with me. For now, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let's jump into the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you guys in my future videos.